There. And this is not with the green screen, so that's why I look a little choppy sometimes. I like disappear, and I like do. So on the weekend we were doing like a dance challenge. Okay. I have you met Yusuf?
Um,
From iPEC. I don't know if he was there. No, actually, I don't think he was there when you did it. But anyways, he's like, oh, he was one of the lead trainers.
okay.
And we were trying to win cards towards points and all that kind of stuff. And then he's like, oh, he came to our group, so we were playing this game in the group, right? They put us in the breakout rooms. I know we're kind of like just talking about the stuff, but this is the how would I put it? It's like a mod 3 last training that I had virtual. For those that might be watching, they're like, what is she talking about? Right? So normally it'd be in class, but it was virtual, and a lot of people were nervous because it's always been in class. But with everything that's going on in the world right now, they're like, well, we can't really have it in class, so you can either defer and go and have it in person at a later time, or you can have it when you're supposed to have it, but it will be virtual. So, of course, me being, awesome, what do I get to learn? What's going to happen? So there was about 3 times more people than normal. So I got to meet people and practice coaching and practice and playing games and debating and all that kind of stuff that we did with complete strangers. And I thought I'd be like, because I've never met most of these people, right? And it's like first time I meet, I already see their name because it's written at the bottom. So that's about it. And the rest is just they're like a blank canvas. I know nothing about them. And here I am having 25 minutes to coach them. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do it in 25 minutes because in 5 minutes is for feedback. So of course we're done in like 20 minutes and I'm just like, okay, so where are you from? Right? And then as I started talking about this background, because we at some point were trying to win these cards, and Yusuf comes in and he's like, let's do a dance battle. Right, so we're like, oh, okay, let's go. Let's do a dance battle. So I noticed that at a certain point, I start to disappear in the background if I go too far. So I'm like doing one of these fish things and then completely disappearing. Yeah, it's nice to feel stupid sometimes.
That's cool that they did a virtual dance battle. That's fun.
Yeah.
So I assume it was all via Zoom.
Yeah, it was on Zoom. Got to experience what it's like to have be in the breakout room. And I thought, I'm like, oh wow, this is really neat. And the person that I got to debrief is actually a person that is in my class and was in my peer group.
Oh, nice.
So I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And so that was a really nice experience. And it's like, how would I describe it? It's like we're giving all this information and we're going to be a detective, but on an energetic level. To help put a picture together for ourselves and for the client so they can better understand where they're at and where they want to be, really. So, yeah, it was nice. How was your weekend?
My weekend was great. I gardened a lot, so got a lot of veggies going, and yeah, mostly just spent it outside.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice. It's therapeutic, relaxing. I spent maybe 4 hours yesterday in Sunday worship ceremony, which is like my form of worship these days, is connecting really deeply with Mother Earth and nature. So it was nice. And I work into ceremony, just tending to my garden, watering it, charging up the water. So it was nice. It's so fueling and great. It was great. I saw my grandma, saw, you know, actually, this was really nice. Oh, on Saturday night, I went to my friend's house and we just sat outside, like 6 feet apart in Adirondack chairs around their fire. And it was just like so needed, just some form of physical connection. Like, even though we were distance and not touching, it was so nice. And it was also really nice. I had plenty of cannabis that, D was growing in Maine, and I got to help trim it, harvest it. And back when I was working and had more just disposable income, actually I didn't. I lived just well beyond my means, but I was pretty reckless with the income I had. But during that time, I got to be as generous as I wanted to be. Like, I could get my friends concert tickets and host things, and I really enjoyed that. And since leaving that job, I haven't been able to be as generous in terms of like gifts or being thoughtful. I really understood. Like, there were times when it was so bad. Like, I didn't even have a checking account because my bank closed on me, and because I was in the negatives for so long. And so during that period of when I was so broke and so living in scarcity, one of the things that hurt the most is that I couldn't purchase things for my friends. I couldn't gift things. Like, I would see something that someone might want and I couldn't get it for them. And I really began understanding the value of money, of energy, of exchange. And so, cut to Saturday, I was putting some cannabis in little bags to bring to my friends, and I was just like, this is it. This is the feeling I've been waiting for. Like, being able to bring someone something that, like, I'm bringing them medicine and it's gonna help them, and it just felt so good to know that I can bring someone some of my abundance, and like, as a gift. And it was just a feeling that I had missed for a really long time, when I wasn't able to be as generous. And I could always use my words to tell people how much they mean to me. It's not the same as like wanting to give someone something.
Gifts come in different forms, right? They don't have to come from our pocket, so to speak, right? So, like, for example, those that have kids, their favorite gifts from kids are cleaning the house, picking up your stuff, not fighting, not arguing. That is such a beautiful gift for any parent. Ask me, how can I help you, mommy? Or what can I do for you? That's a gift. I love those gifts. And with friends, right, you help to grow and cultivate that plant, you said. That's a beautiful gift for them. That you don't have to go and buy. It costs an arm and a leg, probably like a concert ticket. And they appreciate and enjoy it, and they get to use it. It's like, it's in a way like how a parent would receive a gift from a child. I'm sure your friends would receive that gift that same way. It's like, oh, how did you know? That's what I needed.
Just like it, being able to gift medicine, like as it was exchanging hands. I was like, this is the rise of the medicine woman. Like, we are back. Like, this is what gives. We used to go to our homies' houses back in tribal times with herbs and medicine in hand. It's offerings. And so it just felt so great. And just to be able to feel that and feel like the roots of that exchange. That goes deep.
It does. Yeah.
As much as and it does, like, I do feel like being able to purchase now from, like, let's say Emmy's online shop, or a friend who sells herbal teas, just being able to have enough income to purchase from them and make these purchases to these little businesses like that, now after having gone through all those months and months of seeing my homies putting shit out there, whether it's art or crafts, and being like, I want to buy stuff from you so bad, and I literally don't have any options to do that. That experience just brings so much more value to the dollar. And I've been just like talking to money, telling it like, I don't know how you're coming to me right now, but I feel it, and you can trust me to recirculate this money back to my homies, back to the fam. We're going to keep it in the fam, and that's how we're going to increase the value of the dollar. And I can just like feel that abundance. So it's just definitely been an amazing experience to come full circle and realize that when I was making, like, when I did have a 6-figure salary, the reason I was still always broke and living in scarcity was because I did not understand the value of the dollar. And I had all these unhealthy money stories and money attachments. I was trying to fill a void, like, thought money was a void filler. And now I know it's a regenerator. It's to invest in ourselves, invest in our homies, invest in our future.
Yeah.
And like the value of it in my heart has just completely shifted.
Honestly, I know a lot of people can relate to that conversation, to the money story conversation, and especially in these times like now, there's still a lot of people that have not gone back to work or don't have a job, and they want to do something. They want to pick up a skill. And with so many different online courses available out there, a lot of them are saying no to themselves and finding themselves in that rabbit hole. And a lot of them are also saying yes to themselves, and they're finding themselves climbing out of that rabbit hole and realizing that that is how you increase your own value, by educating yourself. Now, not every education costs money. Some education is free, and some education costs a lot of money. And thinking of it in another way, what everyone is going through right now is education. Now, how much that's going to cost is entirely up to every individual, right? Because they can be reckless with money, or they can be really stingy with money in this time right now when they don't even need to be. It's just that future fear of something that might happen, but not necessarily will happen, right? Which is not guaranteed, because the future is not guaranteed. And when we're finding ourselves worrying about the future and the now, especially when it comes to our finances, what it does, it takes away from the now, and it takes away from the future, right? And I know for me personally, when I was deciding to go to iPEC or not, because it's not free and it's not cheap. For me, and this is how I decided, I learned to listen to my heart, and my heart was on fire, even though my gut was like like twisting everywhere. It's like, because that's the fear, right? And the heart is like, yes, yes, yes.
I think me.
Yeah, me. Because it's like it feels nice and warm, and it's like it's that pull that it makes sense, and then the gut gets involved, which at that point it's the head because it's talking to me through the gut because it's closer to the heart. So it's like telling me, maybe not. I don't know, right? And I'm like, no, I'm gonna go do it. And the moment I decided, and I had a conversation with the admissions coach, and I signed up, and I did all that, I was like, wow, this feels right.
Yeah.
It felt more that it didn't feel like I was spending money. It felt like I was earning money, right? It's like I took that money out of the bank and I put it in this bank because I think that's what happens. That's the energy exchange of money, that we take it from the money bank and we put it into our bank, and we increase our own self-worth and value and skills and anything else that we're signing up for in that time. And I know that, like, I did the ELI, the second one. So I'm looking at the last year. It's been a year. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at the last year now. All like my bars, like the normal day, they're all on like 3, 5, and 7. I have the same percentage.
Oh wow. I would love, do you have it available? I would love to see the difference between the two.
Yes. So what I'm gonna do is I will open it, but I also let me close the other one that I was doing because I was doing the ELI report for another person. So I'm gonna close that so I don't accidentally open it. There we go. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen. Where are we? There we go. Share screen. I'll just do it this way. Okay, so let me squeeze this one. This is the very first one. This is the one that you and I did.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So average resonating level, 3.03. 58% and 1, this is under stress, and level 2 is 16.6. And I like to just like jump up and back and forth to compare.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the new one. So the ARL is 3.66 comparison to 3.303. And I'm able to access level 5 at 11% when I am under stress. So level 5 and 3, see, because they're both the same percentage. So level 3, first rationalize through it, put in that swamp, and then it's like, okay, I'm rationalizing through it. It makes sense. I get it. Now, what's the opportunity in there? And that's the 3 and 5 for me.
Yep. And can we switch back? I want to see what your okay, so
yeah, and before it was also like 3 and 5 was the same percentage, but level 2 was my secondary. That's where I was going all the time with anger. And I know, and I realize that I don't want anger. I don't like it. I don't want it in my life. So what do? I work on it. I overcome it, right? Every day, little by little, by simply just catching myself in the things that I'm doing that I don't like. So what else? The other ones, that like, they're fine. But see, this is where it was, again, it was level 1, then level 2, and then level 4. So caring for others and hoping that that's what's going to make me feel better. And then I realized that at the end of the day, it's not my job to fix others, because that's what it was. It was, let me help you, let me fix you, let me hold your hand.
Right. Which says a lot. Like, even in times of stress, you're still worrying more about this person stressing you out, and then whatever's stressing you out, then taking care of yourself, or
Yeah. And then a regular, normal day, typical day.
Just for anyone listening, these two charts, the top one, your energetic profile, is what your energy looks like when things are going the way they typically do for you. So
Yeah,
in
this
other
one.
words, when not under stress.
Yeah.
And the bottom one is our go-to energy interplay when we are under stress, which goes back to fight or flight, those deeply ingrained patterns. And so
Yeah.
this is exactly what this does, is bringing those deeply ingrained patterns from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind, because a lot of times those levels one and two, like, we have them for if we are in immediate danger, immediate threat, like leaving the cave and facing a saber-toothed tiger, but that's not where we are anymore. Like, we're actually safer than we realize. So when we bring this to the conscious mind, we can work on it to decrease those levels 1 and 2, and therefore increase levels 3 through 7.
Yeah.
So thank
Exactly.
you for being courageous and showing the world your charts, Yana. Your
Honestly,
your
I
results.
am not ashamed of them. And I'm not surprised by them. I am proud of them because I choose to go to level one consciously. Even looking at the chart now,
Yeah.
it's still my default choice to where to go to. But then after being at level one, because when we are under stress, catabolic energy is expressed for most of us. Very few might not go to level one. Apparently, we had someone in class who did not have any level one energy. So I was like, who is this person? I want to meet them and I want to talk to them because they probably have a lot of level two then.
Did they? Do you know if they did?
No, I didn't ask, but I know who had that person and I can reach out to him and ask him if they had a lot of level two, because I'm really curious if there's no level one, and when we are stressed, we experience catabolic energy, and catabolic energy exists in level one and two, right? So, and the rest are anabolic. So I go to level one by choice because I'd rather go to level one than get angry and get upset. And that's where, after being a level one now, I then go to level three and then level five. Um, and then if those don't work, I go to level two. And then looking at the regular typical day, see how I said like level three, the same percentage, 19, level five, 19, and level seven, 19. And whereas before, mainly it was level five, I see. Yeah, level five and three. No, sorry, level four, because I'm just looking at the same number. So level four was my go-to on my typical day, normal day, regular, unstressed day. I would go to level four and give and give and give and give. And then I would rationalize and I would try to find the opportunity in that. And then I would end up going to level one because, well, there's not so much opportunity there for me. A lot of mothers can relate to this one because it's such an I don't want to say an ungrateful job, but in the way it is, because our employees, our children, our customers are not very grateful for everything that we do. And then from level one, either go to level six or level two, depending on the situation. But that was before. And now it's literally level 3, 5, and then 7. And then
This is literally changing your DNA. Being able to change that, like, make these changes, evaluate this is serious, hard-coded conditioning and patterning. And to be able to evaluate, and like, we would not know that much predominant level 4 would result in level 1 when we're not refilling ourselves. We would have no idea if we didn't start evaluating and doing the work. Like, I'm looking at your reduction of level 4 from the first within the year, and it's just making me so happy. Like, I'm just like celebrating, just because, not that level 4 is good or bad, or any energy is right, good or bad, or right or wrong. It's just, I know how much care and concern for others you had been putting in, and how much work it took for you to start seeing more opportunity for yourself, and how investing in yourself and self-care and caring and making time for yourself benefits the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just looking at the two results. I'm in celebration of you and your growth. Like, you've changed your level of consciousness. It's wild to just like look at, like, have like quantifiable data that you experience internal, these like quantum leaps in consciousness.
Yeah, and I like that what this assessment allows is to physically see the numbers of where I was at that time, a year ago, where I was a year ago, and sitting there a year ago and trying to decipher and trying to understand it. And then looking at level 1, I'm like, yes, like it made sense to me, but I was hoping I was able to cheat the test a little bit. In a way that it wouldn't know how level 1 I was. Even I wasn't cheating. I was hoping the test would tell me otherwise, right? Because I was just entering the questions honestly, because that's the only way that we can get honest results. And then, so I knew, but I didn't know just how much. I thought it was like half there, but that's more than half. That's like almost 60%. And also, even if a person changed, instead of 58.2, it was 58, that's a huge change for a person as well. A tiny bit of a percentage change in any area is a quantum leap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The work is done at the quantum level. It's like, and these shifts, these quantum shifts, they're tiny microcosms, and they impact the macrocosm more than we could ever really understand. It's like the ripple effect of changing the internal level of consciousness. Like, any individual decreasing level 1 and 2 is affecting the greater good in ways we can't even conceptualize.
Yeah.
Of how, like, this is like rewiring, like ancestral rewiring.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And honestly, like as you're speaking, I'm thinking, like, because the question would come up for people looking at this, like what happened, right? What did you do? And in all honesty, what I did was I looked at where I was looking at this chart, because this is the key chart for me. Right now, my regular everyday life is good. That's great. That's awesome to see. But my target was the bottom chart, the stress reaction, because if I can manage my stress, then everything else will automatically improve. Because by looking at my biggest pain point, which was level 1 and level 2, not liking it, and then seeing the level 4 and seeing those 3, I'm like, that's not what I want. I don't enjoy those. So what do I want? Because I don't want to focus on the things that I don't want. So what do I want? So I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, I like level 3 because it's kind of like level 5. That to me, that's like those two are very similar, right? Because both of them kind of have an opportunity, but with one you got to rationalize, and the other one you just see it. So in order to increase level 5, I first need to become a really great rationalizer. So it becomes natural to a point where I don't even have to rationalize anymore. I can just see an opportunity in it. So when I guarantee it's going to be less level 3 and more level 5, right? And that's what it is. It's like a math problem. Looking at it, how do I decrease one, increase this one. Which one do I want? Which mark do I want to have? Right? Do I want to have an A plus, B plus? What do I want? Or the GPAs, however we want to look at it. I want to have a 4.0 GPA. So how do we get to 4.0?
Like even seeing that it's an option, like looking at an energetic stress reaction chart, we would not even sit and reflect, when I am under stress, I have 7 options of attitude to exhibit. Because all we've known of stress is fight or flight or freeze or fawn. Like all we know are really are levels 1 and 2. Like, and that's how we've all been ingrained to react. Like if we are under stress, and the stress could be anything. Like in doing this kind of work, I realized that even just being around other people in general, depending on who they are, could cause me level 1 stress. I did not know until I was looking at this chart and becoming more mindful of, okay, here's everything that level 1 feels like. When do I experience it? And I would be around other people who like I'll never forget the first time I realized that just being around negative language causes me to feel stressed, and being around gossip or like trash talk. I did not know that internally I was fighting a battle in those moments, and that was causing a lot of level 1. And so even just looking at this and saying to ourselves, whoa, we have all these other options. Like we could be under stress and experience level 5 opportunity, or be under stress and experience level 7 non-judgment. It just is, and I'm gonna perceive the stressful situation through the lens of loving awareness, because it's beautiful, because it's a human experience. Like to even understand that we have all these options, like, yeah, it is worth working toward. It is really worth working toward, to have to, in those stressful moments, like, you know what, I have options. Oh, it feels great. Like it just feels so good to be able to choose instead of being triggered into reacting.
And when you were speaking of being around people, certain people, or language, how it affects, I totally relate. Because, and that's something that I realized because I felt it and I experienced it, but that was that. I had no further realizations past that, as in I didn't really sit down and figure out, why am I feeling that way, what's causing it, because it's not necessarily the person, it's how they speak, how they come across, right? Because sometimes they can be very like patronizing, or they're talking bad about other people, and I don't like that. I don't enjoy the conversations. Or they might always be talking about some show they watch and it's not necessarily for me, so it would bring me to level 1. And just simply because in that moment, what I found myself doing is being level 4, being there for that person, suffering because that's where I'm on level 1. But this is where you're seeing like level 1 and level 4. Well, that's before, right? Sorry, that's now. Before level 1 and level 4, because I'm helping someone by simply being there, by listening, by talking back, even though I don't want to, even though it's not my thing. And this is where it's very minimal words that come out of my mouth for those topics. But that shows, and then get angry and upset, usually at myself.
Yeah.
Right? So if there's a lot of level 2, that does not necessarily mean that you're the person that's walking down the street and yelling at everyone and is angry at everyone externally to everyone. That could mean that we're just angry with ourselves.
Which can also be, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and then we can eventually flip and explode externally.
Yeah, and that's what that level 2, like when we have a lot of level 1 and are in that vortex, like level 1 is a really tough vortex to get out of, because when we're there, it's a self-perpetuating vortex, because all those thoughts, like when you're contracted into level 1, all the thoughts just compile, and it's like drowning in these all the types of level 1 thoughts I have access to, like I suck, I'm not good enough, everybody hates me, why bother, I don't matter. And it takes that level 2 anger to get sick of ourselves. Like when it is getting mad at ourselves, in that case, is the catalyst, is an energetic boost to combat the threat, which is level 1 becomes a threat after a certain point, a threat to our survival. So that level 2 instinct knows, like, this has gone on too long, I am sick of this, I'm sick of myself. And there's this part in the beginning of Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now, where he's talking about the moment that he realized that there's this voice in his head, in all our heads, that are creating those thoughts for ourselves. And the thought that he had, it was something like, I can't stand myself anymore. And that I can't stand myself anymore triggered the next thought was, or activated the next thought, which was, well, that's fun, that's weird, who are there, 2 of me? Like, if I can't stand myself anymore, like, who's I? Like, who's me? And so, but anyways, that, like, I can't stand myself anymore, that's a level 2 thought. And sometimes it's the exact medicine we need to propel us, catalyze us out of level 1, so that we can do something about the situation that we found ourselves in.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was me, right? Looking at the chart right here, that's where my level 2 was coming, anger with myself. Why aren't you speaking up, Yana? Why aren't you going after the things that you want, right? Why aren't you doing what you want? And it's like, what are you doing? So it was kind of like my inner self getting angry at me, and the gremlin keeping me at level 1. That's how I would explain it. And in a way, it's kind of level 2 was also the higher coach, in a way, that comes in there and stands up strong. What are you doing? Get on the floor, give me 5 push-ups.
Yeah. Like, that's exactly what my level 2, like, that fall and winter when I was going through that struggle that you helped me with a lot, and I was watching myself in that level 1, like on the floor of my room on my yoga mat, crying, like not wanting to leave my room, being afraid of the outside world, and just wanting to be witnessed in my struggle. Like, I just really wanted to be witnessed in my struggle. I wanted validation. I wanted acknowledgement for the trauma that I had just been through, and I wanted people's behaviors to change, to adjust to how raw those wounds were. And it wasn't happening. None of that was happening, like, with the people around me. No, so I finally got to the point, after just months of that, like, PTSD recovery, I finally got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm just watching you in level 1, and I'm giving you the space to be in level 1 day after day. But this is, like, you know what you need to do. You've done it before. You know exactly what you need to do. You need to start saying your affirmations. You need to start journaling. You need to start talking to your friends. Like, get your ass up off the floor and put on your warrior helmet and take responsibility for the victim role you've been playing, because you're not a victim, and you know that. And it did. It felt like that, like like a masculine energy come in, and just like, that's it. Like, we've had enough. Like, all of our highest selves, all of your highest selves have had enough of this vortex. We know you're meant for more, and nobody around you is gonna come in here when you're like this and be like, tell me about your trauma. So you need to get your ass up off the floor and pull it together.
Yeah. And it sounds like you realize that people had enough of their own shit to deal with, that it's like, I don't care for yours. I have enough of my own. So you deal with your own.
Exactly. Like, that's exactly, I decided in that moment, I decided to take an objective look at at the big picture. And I could see like me over here in my like misery corner, and then like other people like continuing about their busy lives and like their responsibilities, and knowing like there's a beautiful union of knowledge and emotion that occurs when we take the time to evaluate our levels of energy from an objective place. And that's what I love about the ELI system in general, is I can remain objective about it. So it took detaching from the emotional loops in the right brain. Like I just had emotional trauma loops going in circles. And it took the objective approach that the ELI offer me to say, look, this is just level 1. And you know well enough, like I had taken the ELI in 2013 and had been working toward expanding more and more into the anabolic energy for years at that point. So I knew what I was doing. And it just took that objective, like knowledge-based approach. Like, look at yourself. What level are you at? How's it serving you? Oh, big surprise, not well. You already knew this, and it's time to choose. And then I got to choose. It was pretty much overnight. I got to choose level 5. Like once I had that conversation with myself, I was like, all right, well, I want to have empathy for everybody involved, and I still want to speak about how I feel about everything. And there's a way to approach other human beings from a level 5 place. Even when I have this much emotional weight, I can alchemize that into opportunity, present myself as a mature adult and a leader, and I saw it as an opportunity to teach the people around me how to talk about our feelings and continue the conversation without cutting each other off or getting up and walking away because it got so difficult. So I was able to choose level 5 and go speak to my family and say, I think we're all mature enough adults to have a conversation about our feelings. And so it was great to just like choose to have that knowledge and that level of detachment from the emotion to say, guess what, we're going to go for level 5 now, because that level 1 we know is just going to keep perpetuating itself. Like level 1 is a self-perpetuating level of energy. That's why it's so hard to get out of. The others flow more fluidly.
Yeah.
Like once you access that, like once you can access anger and learn how to transmute it into passion, then that flows. It flows pretty fluidly. But when you get stuck in a level 1 trap, like it is like getting stuck in the sludge and mud. It's so hard to get out of.
Yeah, it's heavy and it can suck us back in. And I mean, that's what this chart has allowed, to see the numbers very clearly in blue and white, and then decide what I wanted instead. And it didn't happen overnight for me, because it's a process. Because in order to decrease level 4 energy, I had to use a level 4 energy for myself.
Yes.
To give myself the care, to focus on myself, and finally say, pardon my language, but it's my time, bitches. So, and that's where, and then see,
it is your time. I'm so happy. I'm getting emotional.
Because you know where I was, right? You know where I was, and it was always about everyone else, and it clearly was not serving me. And my level 1 went down by 10%, almost 10%. It was 58.2, now it's 47.1, so it's just 10%, right? And level 2 went down half, from 16.6 to 9.4, which is half. Level 4 was 8.1, and now it's 9.1. But because it went up, but mainly for myself, right? But then the level 5 and 3, because they're the same as now as they were, like they're equal numbers. And before 6.2, and now they're 11. So they're almost double as well. Because I realized that I was giving too much of myself to everyone but myself. I was not prioritizing myself. I was saying a lot of no to myself when if it was anyone else, I would not say no. So I started saying yes more to myself and no to others, which was not easy to do. It was not easy to do, but it's something that I wanted to do. Why? It's because I was tired of being the way that I was, and I wanted to be the way that I wanted to be. Right? So little by little, by understanding each level, what it's about, why we consciously choose to be there, what are the benefits and the advantages and disadvantages of each level, which we got to learn more this weekend off. I was like, oh, this is nice.
That's actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because for me, learning the disadvantages and the advantages and disadvantages was the key to maintaining that objective perspective of each level. Because if you think about, like, one of the advantages at level 1 is that people do things for you because they feel bad for you. So of course we use it. Like, why wouldn't we? Once we like get that like like validate or like it's a reinforcement. Like when I'm at level 1, my mom makes me food and brings it to me when I'm in bed and depressed. Like, I don't know, that's not so bad. So thank you for bringing that up. It just brings a level of objectivity to how we view them all. Like, none of them are good or bad. They just result in different patterns. Some patterns are contracted, some are more expanded.
And honestly, at the end of the day, it is a choice. If somebody wants to live this energetic profile, go right ahead. That's a choice. You want it, you have it, it's yours. But if at any given point in time, one of them or all of them are no longer serving you, switch it around. Work on it. Figure out what you want, right? Well, first figure out what you don't want and how you're going to go about changing into what you do want. And then go and do it. Mm-hmm. Yes, it might not happen overnight, but
no, it takes time.
Yeah, like a little bit every single day. First, let's say you want to minimize what I did. I wanted to, because level 1 and level 4 were bouncing back and forth, back and forth. I was giving and I was emptying myself. I was feeling dry. And this is where I would go to level 1 because now feed me, feed me, feed me. And everyone's like, you fed me. I know you're fed, so I don't need to feed you. Right? In other words, you're strong and you appear strong, so you don't need the help because you keep giving it. So I'm not going to give it to you because you should come out and say, help, help.
Right. Which is, it's so hard to do. Like when we have in general assumed like the empaths of the world and generally the women of the world have assumed that responsibility of level 4 energy. It comes from a place of naturally intuiting the needs of others.
Yeah.
Which might not be natural. That might have been a pattern passed down generation to generation. Maybe there was a time when men did intuit the needs of others, but I just think women in general, like biologically, we are that bridge between the spirit world and the physical world. I think we do naturally, like, they call it women's intuition for a reason. So because we intuit, empath, intuitive women, because we intuit the needs of others, we have assumed responsibility for so much level 4 energy in the world. And therefore, others have been enabled to stagnate at level 3 and haven't challenged themselves to start the day with, what would this person need today? What can this person, how can I be of service to this person in any given moment? And to just like naturally think that way and feel that, because we can feel other people's emotions so deeply, we just naturally want to be of service to them. And so because of that, because other people don't, because we've assumed our fair share of that responsibility for intuiting the needs of others and acting in service to others, it's a lot harder for us to ask for help, because all we've known when we provide help is that we intuit what others need without them even having to ask. So we don't know that others don't know when we are in need of help and service as well. And so when we drop to level 1, we're already operating from a place of lack of self-worth. Like at level 1, our self-worth is shot. So we don't even feel deserving of asking for help, which is how we learned how to ask through guilt and shame. And that, I know in my family, I've watched that as a deeply ingrained pattern of motivating others through guilt and shame, coming from a lack of self-worth. So then when we experience more level 5 energy, we start feeling and understanding what it feels like to delegate and ask for help from a place of inspiring others to be of service. Like when we learn how to expand to level 5 and then delegate, others feel inspired to access level 4. And that was a huge code to crack, that self-worth results in ways of delegating out of belief that others actually do want to be of service to us. Very different from asking for help from level 1.
Yeah. And it feels heavy too, because when we feel like we're responsible for so much and that it's our job as women, as mothers, to give and give and give to everyone. You got to feed one, you got to feed the other, you got to feed the other. And then you have pets, you got to feed the pets. And then slowly, like for me, it was, I slowly stopped eating as much because I just didn't want to eat, didn't feel hungry, didn't deserve to eat, right? And there's different messages that were going through my mind, but the one that was the loudest was not deserving to eat, right? So level 1 for me came from lack of self-care. That was one of the biggest reasons, is because I was continuously giving and giving and giving for so many years that eventually my level 1, like it probably would have been keep going and going and going higher and higher if I didn't do anything about it. And realizing this is where I am and this is the potential cause for it, because I consciously am aware that I am doing everything for everyone. Our daughter was even spoon-fed up until she was 5 years old because she wanted us to feed her. You know what I mean? And so things like that, it would take away from my own self-care, because I'm caring for this 5-year-old who's more than capable of feeding herself. Because if she can wipe her own butt, she can feed herself. Right? So little things like that I caught myself doing or watched somebody else do, I realized what it was. Not that it was wrong or right, not that it was bad or good, but how it wasn't working for me and how it was affecting me, how it was affecting them potential as well. Not in the good and the bad way, but just the experience of it. And I realized that's not what I wanted. So I started saying no to my daughter. I started saying no to other people in my life and started saying yes to myself. So this is where the biggest changes for me happened. Yes and no, right? And it's a simple thing to do, So if anybody that's watching that knows that they spend a lot of time on level one, which is apathy, a lot of self-pity, right? Low self-worth, low self-esteem, um, a little to no confidence. I'm just describing myself, my past self, right? um, and feeling like they're giving and giving and giving. Those are the two that you can focus on, the yes and the no.
And I also, from my own experience, just feeling alone, like completely, utterly alone.
Yeah, for me, that also came, but I think the biggest reason is because I was giving and giving and giving, and that made me feel alone, unnoticed, unheard, unappreciated, all of the uns.
Yeah. And helpless is a big, if you feel helpless or hopeless, it's a big
Yeah.
indication
Yeah.
of level one.
Yeah, so that's a huge indication of very high level one, and it's not the end of the world. And I still go there by choice. I do. And my husband knows the language of the levels because he's gone with me to Mod 1. So when he's exerting one of the levels, I will point them out because, I'm the, I don't even know what to call it, but unwelcomed coach in his life. sometimes, sometimes you gotta be. And then he will do the same thing for me, right? And then he'll point out my level one, and I'll be like, yes, I am very well aware that I'm there. Now, would you like me to tell you why I choose to be at that level? Usually the answer is no. Okay, so let me stay here because I need it.
Right. It's just, and it's cyclical. Like, I just love recognizing the cyclical nature of it. Like the level ones and level two moments that I've used. Like there'd be times when I'd be at level two, and I would be like, just like breathing fire and loving it, and I'm like, this is where I need to be right now because it's getting your attention, and everybody, because it was in situations where I used to use level one, and I've tried different levels, and there are some situations where level two is called for people to notice, this is something that I'm gonna burn, this is a pattern that I'm gonna burn to the fucking ground. And like that level two rage would come out of me sometimes because I'd been level one or level five or level seven or level four, and not much change was happening, and I would instinctively, like the wild animal woman within me would just be like, this is how we're gonna change this pattern.
Yeah.
And all about is just changing patterns. Like it's like a giant math problem, finding the repeaters, and then moment by moment, like this is the coolest thing about it, and about applying quantum physics to our experience of life, because every moment in a quantum universe, every moment creates a new timeline. So in a moment where like we can almost see the split, we're going along our path, and there's a moment, and we could either react with level one, or we could respond with level five or level six or level seven, whatever. And we could see, if I choose level one, this is where I end up. If I choose level five, this is where I end up. And it creates a split in the timeline, and then we just keep splitting and splitting until choosing whichever energy level we want to choose, until we create a consistent series of choices that results in greater and greater amounts of energy and abundance. And it's just so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, like it's so cool to see that difference in a year, like to quantify your evolution. Like this is evolution. Then the evolution that humanity is undergoing currently is one of consciousness. It's not a physical, like our bodies aren't changing. I mean, hopefully they become more optimal in terms of function as we become more connected with our mind and spirit, because the mind, body, and spirit in perfect harmony is just like, that's what we're working towards. In the meantime, our evolution is, the focus is on our consciousness, and so to be able to have this chart as this quantifiable measurement of human evolution is like blows my mind. Like looking at my two charts from, I'm gonna take a look at them real quick. From so I first took the ELI in 2013, and then I took it again 4 years later in 2017. So I'm looking at it, and I can remember moments in time where in some situations, my perception expanded from level 4 to level 5 before it did in others. And I remember my workplace being the last situation where my energy expands like that, like last key, like all these other areas of my life, I was choosing myself. And then in the workplace, I would still see my boss through a level 4 lens, my team, like the company through level 4, until a certain point when I expanded to level 5. And it was like an entire lens shift. And I was like, oh my God, I'm surrounded by catabolic leadership. And it's so cool, like being able to see this evolution.
So how was the experience when you lifted that lens and saw just how catabolic everyone around you really was?
Yeah. Wait, what about it?
How was that experience?
Trippy. Like it's all like it perception shifts, like expanding consciousness is so trippy. It was challenging because it then like my perception shifted, but nobody else's did in that organization. So
Yeah.
I was straight through to the roots of the codependent patterns and catabolic patterns, and I was like, here's the medicine to change this, and everybody was like, what? Get out of here. And they're like, just do your job. Like, why do you want anything to be different? Just do your job. You're just a cog in a machine. Sit there and like put numbers in Word docs.
Yeah, most people don't like change, so that's a typical response. That's a normal response considered.
So first I had to receive that and accept that as the reality. Like, okay, I'm seeing this through this level 5, and that response resulted in a lot of level 2. Like I went like I was like ready to torch the place to the ground. And then after that, then I was able to return to level 5, just acceptance, and be like, I also very quickly after, so I first took the ELI in 2013, and I would say spring of 2016 was when I hit that expansion point on that, it'd be that energetic profile. Like I just felt it, I could tell. So it took about 3 years to really shift my energetic, when not under stress, energetic profile when not under stress. And when that happened, it happened like level 6 followed pretty rapidly. So from level 6, I could access vision for the future, and I could see the duality, and I had total faith in where I was being led. I had total faith in the vision, total faith in my heart. So I was able to take that as well, look around at the company and just say, well, I don't think this is the place for me anymore. So I'm being called elsewhere. Like words like once I expanded to levels 5 and 6, words like light worker and star seeds were finding me in different writing and articles and emails. And so I started following that trail of breadcrumbs, and from that point there was no other path than where I was being led from those higher frequencies.
Yeah, I like that. The following the trail of breadcrumbs, because that's essentially that's what we're all doing.
Yeah, the universe, like, there you go.
Yeah, that's what we're all doing. If we start paying attention to all the things that that catch our attention, That's what it is, right? Because those things started catching your attention. You notice the breadcrumb on the floor, whether you
Yeah.
stepped on it and it hurt, or you notice that little mess there that's out of place, that's kind of sticking out there. It's like, okay, well, let me pick this breadcrumb up and see what happens. Let me put it over here. Oh, no, I'm supposed to eat it? Okay, I'll eat it.
It's synchronicity and hearing those messages and knowing what it feels like when your intuition is like this.
Yeah.
And like, okay. Do you want to see, so just like speaking of how trippy it is, do you want to see the difference between the 2013 and the 2017? It's like to change your perception. Wait.
Are you able to share it? Because
would I have the option? Oh, maybe I'm not able to share. Would it be in that arrow next to stop video? Here, you know what I'll do? I'll send you a screenshot of them.
because at the bottom it would say like share screen. Let me see. Multiple participants can share simultaneously. Or what's advanced? Who can? You should be able to share. Anyone can share. Who can start sharing when someone else is sharing? Okay, yeah, you should be able to share. At the very bottom of the screen, it says share screen. It's like a little green arrow or green box with the arrow inside.
I don't have. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was looking at the wrong. Okay. Cool.
And then you just do share screen. Yeah.
Try that.
There we go.
Can you see both of them?
Yes, I can. 2013, and the one on the right is the most recent one.
The one, yeah. So it's 2013 and 2017. So 4-year difference. So 2013, mine looked a lot like yours. A lot of level 4 when not under stress, and a lot of level 1 when under stress.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so working on that for 4 years then resulted in what you see on the right in the 2017, where that much of a reduction in stress opened up so much so much space
that you're able to access all the other ones.
Yeah. So to go through that, and that it looks great on paper, but to go through that many levels, like consciousness shifts in 4 years, did result in a lot of conflict and adjustment and catalyst for change as the world around me acclimated to, because these are changing these patterns for the one person in the family or the organization to start making these changes internally. And there's no way to show people, look, this was my entire reality then, this is my entire reality now. Because no one can see your perception of the world but you. It's your unique perception of the world. So it got really trippy. Like it got really trippy. And now I'm looking at my energetic stress reaction, and I wonder what they would be now, because I really don't experience much stress at all.
It doesn't say the year of that one, but I would imagine it's 2017 if it was 4 years after the 2013.
Yeah, this one was 2017 when this was my mod 3, like the results of my mod 3. The one on the right is what I was debriefed on in mod 3, and it was funny because the peer coach who was debriefing me, she was like, your primary level of energy is level 7, and I was like, yeah, I had a feeling it would be. And she was like, I don't even know if the instructors are, she's like, how
do you deal with this?
And I was like, told her, I was like, honestly, well, she was like asking how I got there, and she was like, and because she even realized, like, over talking with me, she and I grew close over the course of the module, and she kept telling me I reminded her of her mom, and like her mom and I were definitely into the same stuff, like Ken Wilber's theory of everything, and just like speak. She was like, you and my mom both speak like way out here, and I'm like trying to follow along, but you say the same things. And so she was like, asked me like, how did you get to this point of having like all this level 7? And I was like, to be honest, I think my experiences with psychedelics helped a lot. Like the recent experiences I had at that time of just like shredding the veil, because once you pop out on the other side, like the leap between 5 and 6 is a leap. It is like it's still like level 5, like you're still somewhat participating within the framework of the matrix. At level 6, you popped out the other side and you're looking at the matrix, and you're like, all right, where do I want to participate? And it's just like weird. Like it's just yeah. So I told her, I was like, some of my experiences just shredded the veil, like shred the matrix completely, and I could see everything as the game that it was, and just like the system of patterns that it was. So that definitely helped. And she was like, she was like, I kind of thought so. She knew it.
Honestly, there's many shows on Netflix that will prove your theory. There's a show that I watched with my husband called Have a Good Trip, with psychedelics, like adventure and psychedelics. And they're showing all the actors and actresses, all the creatives, not all of them, obviously, but some of them that I just wanted to speak and be part of this documentary. Princess Leia was on there. She was talking about her experience on psychedelics and what happened and what she's gone through and everything. And of course, she's done a lot. So needless to say, she ended up with psychosis because she did a lot. But anyways, it's just by the end, my husband, he goes, this is just makes me want to try this. Right. And I'm just like, me too, because the way they explain, of course, this would be, I'm just picturing it as this beautiful event in the forest with a professional shaman. That's what I would do. You know what I mean? Not go and find a dealer in the street selling me God knows what. It would be a lot of time on education would go in for me, the analytical side of me, because for me, I gotta know what I'm getting myself into. Just like with the ELI assessment, the Energy Leadership Index, just like with iPEC, just like with hiring a coach, I needed to know what went into that. And I knew you very well, so I'm like, I know exactly what went in there. I can't think of anyone else better than Rachel than to take me on this journey. iPEC, I got to know iPEC. I can't think of anyone else or any other company that could take me on that journey, right? Same thing here. I gotta find who can take me on that journey and know that there's no one better qualified for me to take me on that journey. You know what I mean? So yes, I am curious. Yes, I want to try because, and I've seen this over and over and over, many shows and all of the readings and stuff that I've done, that what it does, it helps you, it almost eliminates the ego and that separation of self, right? It connects and you're able to see, and not just, for me, it's not necessarily seeing, it's always been with the feeling. It's like I have this feeling about something in the future. What is that feeling telling me? And then I'm trying to decipher what that feeling means And then, only then, I'm able to reveal the picture of what that feeling actually means, right? Sometimes it comes to me in dreams. And then, so yeah, I'm like getting distracted by emails that are coming in because I'm going to be debriefing 5 other people, right? So I'm like really excited and nervous at the same time. But that's what it is. It's like figuring out. So the way I see it is, it gets rid of the ego. It helps the to straighten the heart in the way and quiet down the head, and at the same time understand what the universe is about, what I'm about, because there was a phrase. Oh, this is what was said in this in mod 3 on Sunday, and I was like, oh my god, that's so good. I'm gonna write it down. So the day that you were born was the day that God, source, the universe, whatever you call it, was. So the day that you were born, God decided that the world can no longer exist without you in it. And understanding that, so in hearing that, now having that in my conscious awareness, and imagine setting that kind of intention, because that's key to doing any kind of a trip, to have an intention. Because if your intention is to get stoned, to get high, that's what you're gonna have and do, and it's not gonna be a good one for most people. But the intention is to understand why I was created, because I was created for a reason, because the world could no longer exist without me. So what is it that my part is in this world that will help to create that world that couldn't exist without me? Yeah.
That's the key, is setting an intention. And I do that with my cacao and cannabis. And what I find with psychedelics is, as they're shedding the ego, like they're just like dissolving it in front of your eyes, they also, like, from my own experience, have been unconditionally loving and supportive and gentle along the way. Mm-hmm. So like, it's like you're seeing the avatars, you're seeing your own avatar, you're seeing everybody's avatars playing whatever roles while playing, so you can just like see it. And while you're seeing it, you have so much compassion for the humans that are playing out these roles and yourself. And it's just this, it's it's a journey that I believe that everyone should have a choice if they want to take. And there should be so much education offered on taking this journey, because to be able to see yourself objectively through you can see through the third eye, and to see yourself through your third eye, and to see others through your third eye, like there is no judgment. So my experience with psychedelics is, there's no judgment. It just is what it is, and it's just like displayed out in front of you. And then from there, we can feel, and sometimes there's an emotional process for sure, but when you experience that emotional process, because sometimes you do want to grieve the avatars that we're all playing. And like there's one experience I had with mushrooms, and it was when I had been fighting with the ex that I ended up healing the trauma from. But when we were fighting, like I was like, couldn't understand why like we couldn't shift these patterns. And then one day we ate mushrooms, and I was looking at us objectively. I was having this like out of body experience, like looking at the two of us, these two humans who, like, through these codependent patterns and their refusal to separate and just leave each other for good, that we were destroying each other. And I felt deep compassion for both of us. I was just watching us from like this unconditionally loving mushroom energy who just like wants humans to grow, and she's just like, I love you both, like you're both children of creation, and like I love you, Mother Earth loves you, like the creator loves you, but you are keeping each other in these patterns and you're destroying each other. And I remember seeing it from that place and being like, okay, I know. I will take this into consideration when I return from this trip. And it didn't, like, it was so objective and so loving that I couldn't deny that message. I couldn't pretend that the patterns were going to change, that he was all of a sudden going to stop being like his patterns, just because I was pointing them out. Because I was seeing, like, what it was showing me was him abusing me playing victim, and then pointing out the abuse to him saying I'm going to change, and then not changing, so then I'm there pointing them out again, and it's just like this destructive, like. So when the mushroom just like revealed it to me that clearly, of like, you think you're helping him but you're destroying, like pointing out his flaws every time, like, and just repeating this, like nothing's changing, so there's going to be this pattern, and so you think he's destroying you but you're destroying him too. And to see that, whoa, okay. Yeah,
because we're so quick, we can be so quick to point a finger at someone and not realize that we can actually be the cause of it. And a perfect example with what you were just saying is, because it got me thinking of my kids, and it got me thinking of me when I was little. So when my parents would, for example, tell me, don't go to this river, or don't do this, don't do that, I would go and I do that because they've given me information. So essentially what we are doing when we're pointing out certain things or qualities in people is we're emphasizing on them and we're strengthening them, because then they might not be aware of it, but we're bringing it up to their surface. And with kids, when we, for example, picking scabs or picking nose or being annoying, right? Because our son loves to annoy our daughter to a point where she screams and screams, and then and she wants to fight him, and she keeps giving him the attention for that action. But if she didn't give him any attention for that action, eventually he would find a different one.
He was getting fuel.
Yes, right. It's an energy shift, like you said. And if she doesn't give him the energy for this one, he'll find another way to get that attention. And eventually, because there's even like books I've read that if you don't like a certain behavior, ignore it. If you don't like something, ignore it. And pay attention and notice those and point those out that you do like. And it makes perfect sense, right? With kids, with adults, with partners. And speaking of partners, if your partner does something that you don't like and you keep talking about it, you bring it up and you become the nag, they're just going to do it more and more and more. And what it can also happen is it can create a lot of lower energy levels, like the level 1 and level 2 with that. And they will find themselves doing those things without even realizing.
Yeah, so they're gonna, like, what we focus on creates our reality. So
yeah,
if we're focusing on, like, I remember having conversations with my ex where he would tell me, like, his thought patterns, like, he's like, all that's going on in my head is Rachel's not happy, I can't make Rachel happy. And I was like, if that's all that's going on in your head, then that's all you're gonna see. And I was like, why can't you just focus on that I am happy? And it just, like, wasn't, it wasn't gonna work. And in that, also a key lesson that I learned from that is walk away the first time someone shows you their patterns, because those were not my patterns to change. I was in the process of changing my own patterns. Like, that relationship was like smack in the middle of my evolution, so, which was confusing because I thought I had these keys to cracking everybody's codes. So I thought I could apply them to him. I was like, here are your patterns. Yeah, they are. And but it wasn't my journey. So, but because I had this knowledge, like the ELI and all these tools, I thought that I attached to his journey. And I also thought that, like, I did not realize I had this ingrained belief system that that's what women are for, to teach men to become better people, and like help men grow, and like, so I had this attachment to his journey. Like, I'm here to help. Like, it's like the Beauty and the Beast stories. Like, they like come in needing work until they meet the right woman, and the right woman turns them into a prince or a king. And so I would attach, because I thought like we had to find them in the struggle and then like elevate them, and which made it. And that was in, like, I remember even talking about that with my mom when I was like, I'm done with him, and she was like, well, sometimes it just takes like the right woman. Like, look at, like, and she pointed out evidence of another couple who, like, the dude was just like an immature mess, and then he met this woman, and I was like, stop feeding me these stories. This is like, he, and like, you don't know that he's probably still doing the same shit. So it's just a lesson in that story that I had adopted from, whether it's fairy tales or ancestral stories of male worship and like being in service to men, and that's why we're here. And so to just come full circle and realize, like, okay, so next person I meet has already got to come equipped with having gone through, like, I'm not here to attract a partner who hasn't done shadow work yet, who hasn't gone through this yet, because it results in me doing emotional labor for free, which we're coaches, we know the value of it.
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah.
And for me, like, my lesson is I learned is not to just be spent and funneled all into one person. It's meant to be like the tools that we have as coaches and the healing we have the capacity to facilitate to others is meant to be shared by all. And I just and that's why it resulted in a lot of level 1, because I was no longer, like, I could channel energy, I could access energy from source, but it wasn't regenerating because it'd go into one person and then it would stop there. Whereas when I access energy from source and send it into my tribe, it regenerates, and that regenerates me. Like, when I see my tribe growing, like seeing, for example, seeing the growth in your, like seeing your expansion from one year to the next, like, I know the ripple effect that that's going to have. And I could just like see it continue, like I can see the cycles, I can like watch your energy. And so that, for me, that keeps me fueled, because I'm like, it's working. Here we go, team. We got this. Because I know you're going to reach your people. I'm going to reach my people. And we're just going to get those vibes rippling out and expanding.
Yeah. And that's the way the world will slowly heal. But not exactly the world, but the people in the world, the human race. I would love nothing more than to see everyone have the chart, the ELI chart that they consciously chose. To have the percentages. Yeah.
Should we end with that intention?
Yeah. I was just going to say, we went a little bit past time today, but I think this was a really good topic. And I think probably a really, really good intro to the ELI. Because seeing the physical changes from 1 year to the next, or from 1 year to the 4th year for you, that's huge, right? And realizing that each and every human being can consciously choose, create their own energetic profile.
And it doesn't happen overnight. Like, that's the key to remember. People who meet me now, like, the response that I get, I often get complimented. Like, people all the time are like, your energy is just awesome. Like, I love being around you. And they think that it's just who I am. I mean, it is who I am, but it took me 4 years of conscious work. Like, relentless. I was
It took you
relentlessly
longer than
working.
that. It took you longer than that because you gotta also calculate all the years before that from the day you were born. So that's how long it took you to get here.
Right. But if the point is, if you met me 4 years ago, you would not be, I would, if you met me 4 years ago, I'd probably be on Adderall, like, instead of cacao. I'd be like you would feel the stress on me. You would feel it. And so to be here now, like, it was worth it. So as much as I appreciate the compliments on my energy, it's not me. Like, it's you too. You know, it's everybody. We all have access to this. It's not like me specific. I just became aware of these tools and this method, and applying numbers just worked for me.
Yeah.
You know, it just clicked. Like, if I could apply a number to an emotion, that to me began weaving the fabric of the union of knowledge and feeling, and that's where the wisdom just starts streaming in. Because I didn't
Yeah.
always have, you know, I didn't have like a continuous stream of access to wisdom 4 years ago. It was locked in vibrational escrow. It was like, once I expanded to level 6, and I was like, oh, all these archetypes are here all along. Here's Yoda. Here are all my favorites. You know, like, here's Wonder Woman, sweet, just in time, and so it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. And that's like I'll tell you, my preferred frequencies are 5 through 7. So I would love for my chart, next time I take it, I would love for it to be all somewhere between 5 and 7.
Yeah.
Except for when under stress, because we need levels 1 and 2.
Yeah. Honestly, I
So,
wonder if under stress
and
can be at 3 instead of 1 and 2. But I don't know if
what
that.
would here's the example that they brought up, and they were like, well, they brought it up in relation to level 7. They're like, when we were like, well, why wouldn't you want to just get level 7 all the time? They were like, because if you're at level 7 all the time, you're not going to get out of the way of a moving car. So I think it does take that, like, level 2, I'm in danger, I gotta fight, and like, to get out of the way of a moving car. So
Yeah, that's why we'll always have the level 1 and 2. So that way, because when we lose a loved one, we're going to experience 1 or 2. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be for a long time. We can be there for a really short time. So 1 and 2 level energy is still going to be there, but it might be so little that it's like maybe 1% or 1 minute in a month. Right?
And it could come in waves.
Mm-hmm.
It could come in waves. Like, sometimes I experience grief now from level 7 first, and then I experience, like, sometimes my go-to is, it is what it is, and everything's meant to be the way it's meant to be, and then I experience grief. So it could cycle back, and it could hit you in waves. So
Yeah.
just expansion and contraction. You find what's right for you.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for sharing your chart. It was nice to see the huge changes as well from the first one to the second one on all energy levels.
It's
showing what's possible.
It is trippy. Like, it's trippy. It's worth it. Like, I can't even tell you how worth it. Like, it's worth it. You to put in that kind of work, and
yeah.
And as it is excruciating at times, because when you level up, you see where you were playing an avatar that doesn't serve you and playing patterns that don't serve you. So there is that that grief, but that's why a coach is so important, because and talking to people about the shifts is so important. It takes a lot of grace and compassion to hold yourself while you're seeing the roles you played in the past, and just, okay, that was what you knew, that was normal. Like, there's just like, that was what was normal for you at the time.
Yeah.
It's a really compassionate process.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. And also, because the way I thought would be the best way to wrap it up is because we didn't really go into what is the ELI, how do you go and you take it, what do you do with it, what is it for, right? So it's basically debrief. You take the assessment online. If I remember correctly, there's 80 questions that a person answers, and then you get your results from the coach, and you can sit down and have a debrief, which can be, and you usually it's about an hour, right? Sometimes it can take a little bit longer, and in that debrief, everyone that has had it had huge realizations, and for many people that's all they needed, right? Because just sitting down with the coach and having the coach to explain each and every level in detail, and how does that apply to you, and then where are you and where do you want to be, and how do you believe you can get there, right? So essentially, these are the things that end up figuring out, not necessarily in that session, right? But in that session, you get full understanding of everything that's on there, how it is special to you, and how it shows up in your life.
Yeah, like you get a chance to, once you learn about each level, you get a chance to self-evaluate where that level shows up for you in your life. And once you bring awareness to it, so you'll bring awareness to it in that debrief, and then once you bring awareness to it, you get better and better at bringing awareness to it as you navigate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's like the internet is like, if you there's like, okay, who's talking. But like I said, like honestly, it's a lot of people that have taken it and they had awareness brought to them, or they brought out the awareness for all the things that are happening in their life, and by simply being aware and seeing it in front of them for what it is, because before they never saw it, they didn't even know it existed until now, and now that they know, now there comes a choice. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, it's taken that 90% of the hard drive, like 90% of our hard drives are encoded, like by the time we're 7 and 8. And so it's taking all those patterns and like serving them to you and asking, how does this serve you? It's like going through the process of, does this bring me joy, but with thoughts and patterns, and like, does this thought bring me joy? No. Okay, like now we know. Next time it comes up, you have a choice. Mm-hmm. And it's also a choice to not make a choice. So we can bring all these patterns to the conscious, like 90% of the subconscious into the conscious, and evaluate it, and say, you can also say, you know what, I don't want to change that yet, or right now, or I don't want to change it at all. And that's also a choice.
Exactly. Everything is a choice. And when we feel like, there's times in our life when we feel like we don't have a choice, and it's a feeling. It's not reality, it's a feeling. And then once we slowly start addressing that feeling and questioning it, how true is that really? Then we are able to access choices.
Yeah. I think it's important to note, so something that we do with the ELI and the whole process is we show that at each level of energy, there's a core thought and there's a core feeling, and then there's a result of that feeling. So let's take the thought. The thought is, I don't have a choice. So when that's the thought, how do we feel? Helpless, lost, alone, hopeless, depressed, anxious. So when we feel all that, then what is the likelihood we're going to put in any effort one way or the other to make any kind of change? Not very likely. So that's where, and that's exactly where level 2 would come in, as the booster out of there. Like, I'm sick of this. So if you think like, so the thought, I'm sick of this, what's the feeling? Anger. And then what's the result? Defiance. So yeah, so it's just important to know, like, it all, like the thought, this is all, our reality is completely created by thought.
Yeah.
And because our thoughts determine our feelings. So once we learn how to weed the garden, like weed out the thoughts that result in harm and painful or difficult feelings, and which of course, again, we're going to experience difficult emotions cyclically. We just get better and better at returning to joy and love, harmony, and bliss.
Yes, and equilibrium, that's one of my favorite words.
Yes.
Awesome. This was awesome. I'm glad I got a chance to share my chart and I got to see your chart.
I'm so happy to see the difference in your charts, and I could feel it all along, like, and but it is so satisfying to see that, like, quantifiable evidence. So, like, yes, I knew it. Yes, girl.
It's kind of like a proof of, I believe it when I see it. Thank you, sweetie. I believe it when I see it, right? So it's like I was believing it first, and then I saw the evidence of what I was already feeling and believing all along.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I honor you and I celebrate you. I celebrate your growth. It's been so beautiful watching you blossom.
Thank you. And it's been beautiful watching you blossom as well.
Yeah. Together.
Yes.
It's been a lot longer and difficult journey without you.
Mm-hmm. We'll just have to decide what kind of flower it's going to be. Okay, much love. Okay, thank you. Until next week then. Okay, bye.
Yes. Peace.